Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everybody's week going so far?
Hi, Julie.
Heather, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. So looks like we've got a few more people joining us, so we'll wait another minute or so and give everybody a chance to hop on, and then we'll get started.
That. Okay, that sounds great.
Emily's here with me. She's about to log on.
Okay, terrific. Is everybody able to access the agenda?
Where is it at?
It is in that big sign-up sheet where you found the Zoom link.
All right, I will find that sign-up sheet in the agenda.
I have it here. I'll dump it in the chat too.
Oh,
Perfect.
Maybe. I've lost my chat. Hang on.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, hello. Can everyone hear me?
We can. Hi, Tracy. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. Hi, Emily.
Hey, I just lost my video. Where did it go?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
And Robin is not going to be here.
Okay.
Robin is attending a session at Kennesaw State today.
Okay. All right. Thanks for letting me know. So the other one, I see Chris and Whitney are the only other two.
And Whitney will be here in just a moment. Kristen,
Great.
our boss, had a quick thing that she needed screenshots of rosters.
Okay.
And Whitney had to run down the hall and get a screenshot to send it to Kristen ASAP. So I told
Great.
her you'd be joining when she could.
Terrific. All right. Well, great. Well, welcome everybody. It looks like somebody threw the agenda in the chat, which is awesome. Thank you. That's so helpful. So today is the first of our webinar series. There are some that are today and some happening later on this week, and then there's another round happening in February. So this is an opportunity for us to get together around a specific topic that is of interest to everybody. People are mixed up, so it's not necessarily people from your PLC. Everybody had a choice to join today. So does everybody know one another? Yeah, okay. Okay, great. So just by way of introduction, would love for everybody to start with one celebration. So something that it can be really, really tiny, or it can be something rather large, but something positive that is worthy of bringing to the group for celebration. We'll just go around the horn real quick. Tracy, you want to get us started?
Sure. I woke up this morning. That's the best thing I can think of right now because we're in a little stress time crunch with lots of things going on. So I woke up this morning and I made it to work, and I'm sitting here in Lassiter's laminating room.
Okay. Well, we're glad you're here. Glad you're here. All right, who's next?
I've had success in my schools in different aspects.
Okay. What's one positive thing happening in your school?
Microsoft.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thanks, Janelle.
Yeah, one of my teachers that I'm focusing on for my TEAC school, I've kind of had some breakthrough with her in the last week, so that's been exciting for me.
Excellent. Great. Thanks, Megan. Emily, you have a celebration?
I'm busy this week, and I don't have any celebrations yet.
Better to be busy than bored, right? So that's a good thing.
Yeah. I'm definitely needed in lots of places.
Okay. All right. Heather? All right. Well, if anything else comes to anybody else, you're welcome to shout it out as we go through the agenda. So one of the things, and Tracy, your comment is perfect, actually, and Emily, it sounds like is similar. But good morning, Whitney. Welcome. But the comment about so many things going on reminds me of the next piece of our agenda, which is permission slips. I don't know if you had a chance to look at that video or not. If not, Brene Brown is, for those of you who don't know her, she's a researcher and a social worker, and she does a lot of presentations, gives a lot of speeches. And one of the things she talks about in her research and in her work and the books that she's written is the concept of permission slips. And so she says that somebody asked her why she always wears jean jackets. And she said, because she puts little permission slips in her pocket. So when she was on Oprah, she gave herself permission to be really, really excited about Oprah, even though Oprah had her on as a guest and, thinking about her, wanted to be listening to her expertise. So what's something, if we're going to be talking through building next level relationships, and we're going to be potentially even role playing depending on people's level of comfort throughout this conversation, what are some things that we might need to give ourselves permission to do? So Tracy's comment makes me think, for example, that we need to give ourselves permission to spend the next 45 minutes or so, reflecting, and give ourselves permission to let everything else that we have on our plates that's sort of surrounding us go for the next 45 minutes to kind of concentrate on our own learning. So that's one example. Emily, I put another link to the doc.
My example. I'm good then.
You're good.
Actually, I want to do that at 4 o'clock this afternoon as well, to let it all go and leave it. I keep letting those wheels spin all evening while I'm sitting at home trying to enjoy my personal time.
Okay. Well, that's maybe something to try then this afternoon as well. Anything else we might need to give ourselves permission to do?
Permission to make mistakes or not say it right the first time.
Love it. Hugely important.
Emily, that's exactly what I was going to say too.
I feel like we just always have to, we want to be right, not make a mistake. And it just happens sometimes.
Absolutely. If we're always right, how do you think that would make teachers that we're coaching feel? Like they have to always be right. And then it just perpetuates that. Then how do the students feel? You know what I mean? It's just a ripple effect. So by choosing that as the coach or as somebody in a position of leadership, you're really sending the ripple that it's okay to make mistakes and learn from them throughout your entire organization. So that's a really important one. Anything else? All right, well, let's dive into some of the articles then. So there were two articles. The first one is an Inc. article, was more of a business feel to it. And then the second one was around Mind Tools, which is more of an educational feel. So let's start with that 7 ways to build influence in the workplace one. What were some of your takeaways? What were some of the things that stood out to you? It doesn't have to be positive. It could be something that you disagreed with. Has everyone had a chance to read the articles? Yeah? No? Okay.
I have read the article. I just need to bring it back up on the screen. So if you could give us just a second.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's take the next 2 or 3 minutes and just do a quick refresher. Okay. So I'm just gonna stop talking for a second. We'll start with the 7 ways to build influence in the workplace, and we'll just take a couple of minutes to just refresh ourselves. Okay. So what are some things that stood out to you in that article? And they can be either positive or negative.
I'll start. I think that the be flexible thing is big for us, just because of our position and everything can be thrown at us. You never know what's going to happen. So you really have to be flexible in every aspect, whether it's in what we're doing in training or when we're working with others.
Yeah, I think that's really important in any role, but especially in the role that you guys are in with so many demands on your time and so many responsibilities. Can you be too flexible?
Yes. And that's where that other part of it comes with that being assertive. You can't let, like, I just can't flow with everything. I have to be able to say no to things. And I think that's big too. Learning and knowing when you can say no and being okay saying no.
So I see a bunch of heads nodding with that. Can others sort of weigh in on that and talk a little bit about that flexibility?
Yeah, you need to pinpoint what the teacher wants. They don't have time to be messing around. So if they ask you a question, or if they seek your advice, you need to get down to business that makes it implementation bound for them as immediately as possible, as immediately on their time frame as they need. If you want to, continue that conversation or go in another direction, then the appropriate thing at that time would be like, do you have everything you need now? And how can I serve you? Maybe next week, can I come back around and help you in any way whatsoever, check back in with them. But their time is very valuable.
So I love that idea of being really explicit about that at the end of the conversation, right? That, what's one thing you're going to use? What are we going to work on for next time? I think you can do that. Be as explicit in the beginning too. Today we've got about 25 minutes to talk. What's one thing you really want to make sure you walk away from this conversation with? And that helps you both level set around the same thing as well. Anything else that people have used or incorporated that helps them set boundaries and maintain that flexibility, but not being overly flexible?
I think trying to give them someone to reach out to at their own school that could be an expert, instead of only relying on the next time on campus or the next time I can send a detailed email. Like, they need to find that community within their own school. All their other resources other than me.
Yeah. That's great. That's builds their capacity, but you're also building leadership capacity in other people in their building, which is awesome.
I think it's important to build that leadership capacity to really empower people in the building to do that. There are people that I see out there every day that are capable of being real tech leaders, but sometimes they don't even know it and have no ambition to do so simply because they don't realize it. I think empowering people to find that is important, and it gives them an additional purpose as well.
That's great. So you're not only building capacity in the person who's asking the question, but in the person who's sort of seeing themselves in a different light as well. Love that.
And back to the article. I mean, I'm not sure if you're ready to move back or if we want to stay on this particular topic, but I like the way that the 7 pieces were pulled together. The only change that I think I would like to make is I would like to move number 7 to number 2, because it's very important to me in every situation, whether it's a coworker or if the teachers in our school, is to build that trust. But the second most important to me, which all 7 are, is that we've got to listen to, whether it's our teammates or whether it's the people that we're listening to. Sometimes you just kind of want to brush them off and here's the answer and go on and be done. But sometimes it's just listening. To me, I was just thinking of moving it to number 2.
Anybody agree with that? Disagree with that?
I would agree. I think listening is huge, and I think it's notable that building trust is in both articles. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer in our position and in any coaching serving role. 'Cause if you don't have trust, then you're dead in the water.
Absolutely. So what are, sorry, go ahead.
No, with that trust, it's more about being personal and building those relationships, and getting to know the folks too. So I think it all kind of builds on itself.
What are some of the things that you all do? Because I know that you build relationships, that you are constantly listening to others. What are some things that you do to bring that to an intentional level?
I think you want to try to use conversation guiders, so to speak, with people to assist people with voicing their feelings, or in some cases, in our role, guide them back to the topic at hand so that time can be used wisely.
Something I have to be really intentional about, because I am incredibly introverted by nature, is putting myself in positions to be face-to-face with people when I don't have to be. So it's really tempting to kind of hole myself up in a closet or in an office or in a room and get my work done unless I'm asked for. But to get out and walk the halls and, see people during their lunch break and be face-to-face with people when they don't actually need me is something that I try and be intentional about, which is hard for me.
I totally relate.
Like when you're out in the hallway, not just saying hi to someone, but building that relationship by learning more about them and being like, oh, how was such and such from last week? Or, like when you learn those little pieces about them, whether it's them or their kids or something in their classroom, and we're just trying to remember those types of things and then bringing it back up really goes a long way. Instead of just saying hi or good morning, which you can't do all the time. However, when you can, it makes a big difference in a relationship.
So moving beyond superficial conversation and, saying hello and just sort of time filler relationship building to actually really meaningful connections with people, either around their families or things that they're passionate about outside of school, or just asking them deeper questions. All those things are really great ways to build trust in a really intentional way. Anything else? What in the building trust segment, they talk about disclosing apprehensions. What are some of the benefits and costs to disclosing your own apprehensions as you work with teachers?
I think it gives them freedom. I think it gives them freedom to know that we're learning together, that everybody has the opportunity to learn in each situation and instance, and that we're not experts per se, and that there's a level or tier of hierarchy. We are coaching and willing to go out and, we may have a little bit more knowledge or experience per se, but that they too can reach that same plateau by just working together.
So sort of unveiling yourself as a learner as well, I think is really, that's definitely important.
And then that ties us, in my opinion, back to number 3, is not being aggressive when you're coaching, to try your best. And like Janelle said, you start with some of the personal things, and then you can insert some of your assertiveness for technology or whatever once you've got that relationship building. But being aggressive, certain people that that you can do that with, you can run down and say, hey, I need this, or we got to try this or whatever. But there's a big difference between assertive and aggressive. And you can't hound people to death till they don't even want to hear from you anymore. But then finding that personal touch to add to them working with you, I think, like Janelle said, opens up a whole new area for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So what does assertive look like? Like, what are some examples of things you would say if you were going to be assertive?
I know this may be a challenge, but this is something that we're going to do together, and I can help you. And pretty soon you'll be comfortable enough to do it on your own with confidence. This is something that really does need to be done, and we're going to walk the path together.
Yeah. I like the idea of offering to walk alongside them, right? There are a lot of ways you can lead. It doesn't always have to be from the front. Anything else?
Often, I think it's great to remind somebody that we in our roles as coaches are going to learn as much from them as they might potentially take from any tool or anything that we're showing them. And I think it's important to say tool, experience, what have you. Not that you're learning from me, but that you're learning from what we're going to show you and work together on, because I find that often to be true. I learn all kinds of things just from watching teachers that I work with, and they're things that help me and that can help others.
Absolutely. Are you all familiar with Jim Knight's work?
Yes.
Yeah. So he talks about that as being kind of one of the essential components of coaching is that partnership. And, it's not, even though coach sounds like, in your basketball coach or whatever was somebody who was older and, knew that it's sort of the antithesis of that in a school setting where you're working with an instructional coach of any kind. All right. Any other, the other thing that I was kind of struck out to me was about the action. So action versus argument, that you can't build influence with words. What's your reaction to that?
I think you can build influence with words if you can demonstrate that they could have confidence in your words. They have to be able to believe that your words are being able to be backed up by actions. And I think too that when you do speak, whether it's speaking presentation style or whether you're having private conversations one-to-one, eventually people will know flat out whether your words are leadership words and whether they can trust you in that leadership or not. It's very much an intuitive human instinct.
Okay. So not as much a matter of your words as whether or not you're living your words. Yeah. Okay, great. Anything else? All right, let's do the same thing. Oh, one other question I wanted to ask about that was, how do you know it's working? So you're building trust, you're working overtime to make sure you're listening and doing all these things. How do you know that that's how it's being perceived by the people that you're coaching?
You get invited back. You get positive feedback from your admin teams who are leaders in their buildings and they know their people. You get positive feedback from someone who's outside of the norm, the counselors or people who are on the fringe of possibly the staff. Or you have people, who are emailing you and communicating with you in other ways, saying, you're appreciated, we need you, can you please come back, can you guide us in this next step? I think it's the cycle, and I think that's in that impact cycle, it kind of breeds another opportunity of a new cycle or a different cycle, or it lets you travel through other steps that maybe you didn't even foresee, but that you're invited into.
Okay. Just like a video game where you make it to the next level, I like that image. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think we just can look at our calendars and tell. Because if our calendars are empty, then evidently we're not building those relationships like we thought we were. They're not asking for us to come back, and we're needing to get back out in the halls and do some more visits during planning periods and those types of things. With us being, most of us, not all, but most of us being in our schools for 4 years now, it's kind of hard for us to keep our head above water because we have built relationships, and now they're wanting to start trying all these things, and they feel comfortable with us being a teammate, not a person in charge, and are asking for, I'm just amazed as to all the things the teachers are asking for, and are including me in that group, not just a few chosen ones.
Great. So then you may be able to look at some trends too in terms of what they're asking of you. Maybe that was really kind of basic technology things in the beginning, and now maybe you can see a real trend in how they're integrating technology and the sophistication of the tools that they're requesting and things like that. Great. All right, how about that second article? So do we need a couple minutes to? Yeah, okay. Let's do 2 quick minutes to take a look at that second article. There is a video, but there's an article that says most of what the video says, so you can bypass the video for now. Go back and look at on your own time. All right, so go ahead and talk us through what stood out. I know there was something that, yeah, so talk to us about what stood out about this article.
For me, I was really, I really like the part where it says to schedule time to build relationships. And I don't do a very good time at scheduling what I would call downtime for myself, where if someone asks me to like help them to train, I'll train 5 days a week. And I've really tried to make a point to not be stuck training every single day, because I need that quote unquote downtime to be able to walk the halls, to go sit in classrooms, to build those relationships. So that's what I've tried to focus on that this first semester. Hasn't gone so well, but that is truly a goal for second semester. Gosh, CTLS. But like that's a big thing for me, because it's not just going to come naturally. I'm not going to be able to see people as I'm walking down the hallway. Like I need to intentionally go sit in someone's classroom for, a class period or two, just to like make sure that they see my face and then I can start to have that conversation. But that was a big thing that stood out for me.
Anybody else relate to that? And if so, are there any things and is there anything that you've done to really concretely move your time or to protect time?
I think the only thing that I have to be conscious of is that when I'm in the mornings, if I've set some time aside and I come in and I'm shaking my head like this because I've got an ordeal I'm having to deal with 6 screenshots and this not happening and this not happening and this not happening, I have to kind of debrief myself mentally and physically before I do go down the hall and see Ms. Brown because she's on her planning, because I got to let go of all that negative energy and everything that I've wound myself up on because this issue keeps happening and I can't get it fixed. Let go of all that and then go down the hall with that smile on my face and work, with her. And usually I set my time aside to go back and catch up. Once I do get that point to where I can catch up and then start building those relations, because I don't want that negativity to run out in my schools with me walking down the hall, my forehead again, and just shaking my head.
That's a really good self-awareness point, right? So that relationships always start with us. And so our ability to clear our minds and selves of, negative emotion and whatever happened with one situation as we go into the next is really hard as a leader. But absolutely something that's important for building trust and to ensure those relationships are intact. Tiger Woods credits a huge percentage of his success to his ability to, if he had a bad shot, to totally let go of that shot and then go on to the next one. So I think there are so many applications to that. Megan's on the move. I got displaced. What else in terms of scheduling time? Is that a realistic thing? And to set aside 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon, or I don't know, whatever your schedule looks like, but could you find, and what is the smallest amount of time that you could find this week to be intentional about building relationships, or to be intentional about something building trust?
You can set whatever time aside that you want to, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get that time is the issue. Like I could put from 7:30 to 8 or 8:30, it doesn't matter. If I set a 30-minute time frame on my calendar, that is going to be my time to do whatever. If a fire starts, you have to give up your time to go find a fire extinguisher. So we can always set the time, but we have to be flexible to know that we may not get that time, and it is what it is. There's no way around it, because we're here to serve the teacher. So if they have an issue, we have to drop our stuff and go to them.
To Janelle's point, even if we are having to go and put out a lot of fires, which I think you're right, a lot of us have had to do this first semester, that is still an opportunity to build a relationship, because someone may be calling you for the first time because they've sat in a training and they're not sure who else to go to, but they sat in that training and they know you can assist with that particular issue. And how you approach it, how you work with them, how you assist them is in fact building a relationship, and sometimes setting a foundation for a relationship that could grow.
Love that.
So almost like taking advantage of any opportunity that pops up. I guess that's what kind of Whitney was saying.
For sure.
Whether it's in team communication, as this second article talks more about, or working with teachers, everything we do is an opportunity to react with someone else, and almost everything we do is going to have an impact on someone else, and some of those impacts can in fact be lasting, and that's why we need to take time to think about our actions and think about how we're presenting ourselves and how we work, not just with teachers but with each other on the team.
Whitney, are there some things that you do to bring those interactions to an intentional level? Like you hear, okay, there's a fire, you got to drop everything, and you run. Are there, like, do you think in terms of questions? Do you think, like, what are some things that you really think about as you walk into that conversation, knowing that it wasn't an intentional opportunity and an unintentional opportunity to build relationships? So how do you approach that?
When people are having problems and they're upset about something, the first thing that they want somebody to listen to them, and on top of that, they want to feel heard. Mm-hmm. So anytime I'm going into that situation, those two things are utmost in my mind. Beyond that, I let what I'm hearing from them guide what we're going to do next. As much as possible, I try to empower them to assist themselves. However, if I have somebody who is not at that level yet, I certainly don't want to push them to where they're not ready to go. Mm-hmm. So I think you really have to think on your feet, but I think you have to listen, and you really need to watch body language as well. You can gain a lot from watching if people are tightening up, if people are loosening up, see how they're tapping the keyboard, see if they're open to what you're saying physically. I mean, literally open with their language, or are they not very open? It also depends on what situation are you walking into, as far as, you're good, Ms. Bama, on what situation are you walking into? Is this a classroom full of students where the objectivity is urgency, or is this a situation where you can turn it into a teaching, coachable moment? Mm-hmm. It just depends. And I approach things with teammates the exact same way. Before I do something, I try to think about, okay, how's this going to make the other person feel? And how might they respond to this? I try to put myself in their shoes.
So listening both to what they're saying and what their body language is doing, and then being responsive is what you described, like really truly being responsive to whatever the situation is, whatever comes out of their mouth, whatever happens in the moment, which is a more comfortable piece.
Can you better define your question, please, Julie?
Sure. So I guess I'm wondering, like, is listening an easier thing for people to do naturally? Is the thinking on your feet and being responsive to the person, is that equally easy, or is that a little harder to do? Is there one piece of that as a coach makes you a little more nervous?
I think that's based on experience, because I know, like, when we started doing all the coaching, like, you have to stop and make yourself listen, because then as a good coach, you want to listen more, ask more questions so that they can respond. But as we've been doing it longer and longer, I find myself in a coaching conversation with my 6-year-old, just because it's like, you just get, like, it's ingrained in you to listen and ask those probing questions. And it turns out that I'm doing the same thing with no matter who I'm talking to. So I feel like with experience, that comes, like, each of those pieces comes a lot easier. I don't know. It's just, I just feel like I'm really good at asking those questions and making people answer them, including a 6-year-old.
That's great. Anything else that stood out for that article, that second article?
I think some of that confidence comes with having your resources. For me personally, having my resources with me. Mm-hmm. I never go anywhere without my phone, or particularly my iPad if I'm inside the building, to be mobile. Mm. You know, everything I may or may not be an expert in or need more information on, no matter what somebody asks me, our team has provided amazing resources. So I can be mobile and have answers to questions. If I don't know them in my head, I have confidence that in those coaching questions, or if somebody's going to ask me something, I can, on my feet, answer any questions they have because of our resources as a team.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Being prepared is big. But then also knowing that it's okay to say, I don't know for sure, let me find out for you. Mm-hmm. Because it's better to say that than to tell them something that you think that then in the end could be wrong. Mm. But having the confidence in yourself to state that you don't know for sure, I think is big, because yes, we have a lot of great resources and we have a lot of great teammates, but sometimes there are just things that you may not know, and you have to be able to say that.
There's a great Eisenhower quote, and it's something, I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but it's something to the effect of, I found when I go into battle that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. And that reminds me a little bit of your conversation, that you want to absolutely be prepared and you want to go in kind of ready to go. But if you're sticking to a script, or, and you're not responsive, because you don't want to have all the responses. You just want to make sure that you're able to be flexible enough that you can be responsive. So the one other thing that came up again was this concept of boundaries. As you reflect on that, is there anything about boundaries that has made you think in this conversation or in one of the articles, made you think a little bit differently about boundaries? And if so, in what way?
I think if you know your people, you also know what their boundaries are. You get to learn through time what their boundaries are. And particularly if I'm coaching or if I'm with certain teachers or certain grade levels, I know where their boundaries are. I've learned over a period of time who to push a little harder, or that I might be able to gain some speed with, versus those that it's not appropriate to they've made their boundaries clear. Mm. And I need to respect those, because if I want to move forward with them, then they can only take in so much at a time. And, I can go back to them at another time when they're open. But you have to know when to put on the gas and when to put on the brakes with teams and with individuals. Mm. And I think that comes over time, and just knowing your people and knowing what their style of learning is and how much they are in need of immediate help, or whether they want you to put out the fire, or even if a resource is appropriate. You have some teachers that are like, I don't want to look at your resource. I don't have time. Like, you need to come here and show me and help me. I totally get that completely. More than happy to. I would love to. And then you have some who are like, don't talk to me. Send me the resource. I'm smart. I can do it by, like, just give me what I need and I'll deal with it on my own time. And I think that both of those are perfectly appropriate and lovely in a way. And you just have to know your folks and how to jive with them in helping each one of them move forward in their own manner, whether it's a team, a whole staff, or an individual.
That brought in so many elements of our conversation thus far, right? The building the trust, being responsive to folks, knowing what they need and being curious about what they need versus, coming up with a solution. So that's great. What about your own?
Really good point that boundaries change according to the scenario in which you find yourself. And everybody, particularly people in training and coaching positions, need to be sensitive about that.
What about your boundaries? If you were to reflect on your own boundaries as coaches and as TTISs, are they right where they should be, or are there things that you might want to tweak or reflect on?
I think our calendars and time management set many boundaries for us. And I think that learning styles set boundaries. And I also think that, your physical or personal willingness to flex or not flex, or when you prefer to flex if you can, but if you can't, you can't because of whatever other alternative reason. But I think as coaches, it's what we do really well is kind of ebb and flow to whatever that moment is, because if you can't, you won't last. You won't be able to make it.
I came from a school that had terrible morale and climate among the staff. And so one boundary that I've been really intentional about in this position is not letting myself ever get caught up in just the school gossip and complaining and drama and all of that nonsense, which fortunately in our position is a little easier because we don't go to one school every day. But it still presents itself. The opportunity still presents itself. And so that's a boundary I think is really important for us and that I've tried to be really, really intentional about. And it served me well because I don't get as many people coming to complain as I think I probably would otherwise if I were I can be compassionate without egging it on.
Okay. I like the concept of being compassionate without feeding the fire, Yeah, it's important. All right, so if you could, just before we close, if you could think of one person that you're interested in building a next level relationship with, who is that person? What might some barriers to building next level relationships be with that one person? And then of the strategies some of the strategies that we talked about and some of the things that we've talked about today, what might help you to build that next level relationship? And you can think about it and jot it on a sticky note next to you or something like that. I certainly would love if anybody is willing to share, to have you share and to help, we can help you navigate that a little bit. But if you would rather keep it to yourself, I understand that as well.
I have an example that I'll share. I have a teacher in one of my middle schools who I've had a relationship with her. I've actually taught with her several years ago, but then like when I came back into this position, she happened to be at one of my schools. So there's a past there, and it was never bad, but I just don't get to see her as much. And I think that she would want to really work with and build a better relationship with, because she she is so tech driven that if I can like get her to do a few more things, like her class will just explode and be awesome. But for me, like it's all into that planning the time to be at that school and know that I'm not training so that I can walk the halls, go sit in her classroom. And it's not to where I think like I'm going to have to like break down any barriers with her. It's just the time to just get in there, see what she's doing so that I can share ideas and help coach her with some different tech tools.
Are there other folks, like when you talked earlier about putting out fires and things like that and that sort of taking precedence, what do people do when you're not there and there's a fire?
Email. They email you and say, are you in the building? That's exactly what they do.
And then if you're not in the building, what do they do?
Well, I try to coach them via email and try to like the same questions I would ask them in person. I put in an email, but you don't always get like I could ask 4 questions to help try to troubleshoot and you get 1 or 2 responses. So it's trying to get them to answer those questions and do the same thing that we would do face to face, but via email. If I'm in a place where I could like call them or Skype with them or whatever, I do that. Otherwise, in putting out fire situations, it's 770-426-3330 help desk. Like I just have them call the help desk. That's okay. It's all you can do because they need their fire put out and
right. So there is a means of them. I mean, obviously you're the first line and you're the first choice because you have that relationship, but there is another option for them if you're not there.
Yes.
So, in terms of protecting your time and scheduling that in, are there other conversations with people that you would have to make sure to help you protect that time?
No, I just need to stop saying yes.
Okay.
Trainings. So if a principal comes to me and says, I want to do this, or a teacher says, can you do this? I just need to say, instead of saying yes because it's my first available, I just need to give them another date, like the next week or the week after that. And it's all on me because I don't want to push them out any further than I have to, but I have to have that balance. Yeah. And it has to happen. And that's my big thing for second semester is I'm not going to train 4 or 5 days a week because then I'm caught up in that training room all day. And that's not, it's great because I'm training, 100 and some people, during the day, but it's not good in the overall sense of what we do. So it's just a sacrifice that's going to have to happen with my schools and my teachers. Right. And that we just have to build that communication online with, emails and things like that because I won't be there face to face for training. So
do you publish your...
No, we do not publish our schedules or calendars. For that same reason, because we don't want a principal to look at our calendar and say, hey, you have the morning of da-da-da-da-da, I need you to be here. Because then we would have people that would monopolize our time.
There are simply too many different scenarios where we could be called to assist with another project at the last minute, and we might have just a plain work session open and we can move that. It would just be, I can't even imagine what it would be like having our calendars open to everybody at our schools. Okay.
But I wonder if even like you had a block of time that for just like a Calendly link or something like that, where you said, between 1 and 2:30 on these 5 dates, first on second semester, are open to X.
That some of us do keep. For instance, my schools know the general days I'm going to be there 30 days out and whether I'm going to be training on a particular topic, if I am, what that topic is. They also know when I'm just going to open time for people to come ask questions. That's in fact what I am doing this afternoon from 1 to 4.
Okay, gotcha. So do others relate to Janelle's reflection that, that there is some need to say, this is protected time and it is literally protected, and that you're going to safeguard that to do, that relationship building or to be in classrooms or whatever it is that you value and feel like is the highest leverage impact. Okay. Other than just committing to it, are there other conversations that you might need to have in order to make that a reality?
I think it's really taking the time to block it on your calendar. Go ahead and looking now at February, March, April, and go ahead and making dates that are in theory dates that you will be in classrooms and with teachers.
Okay. Is that a good challenge for people? Sort of leave our conversation with, to have the face of somebody that you want to really build a next level relationship with, and then committing to putting 30 minutes on your calendar at some point with the explicit intent to work with that teacher. Is that like a small next step?
Well, I'm not sure about the relationship part. I feel that in our department that we've just got to figure out in all of our cases to set that 2-hour period aside, because we're having to work with project teams. It's not necessarily even building a relationship. We've got everything from district initiatives coming out that we're training on right now, more district initiatives coming out. We've got flat panel installs that are going on that'll take up 7 to 9 mornings for our high school people, that middle schoolers taking up 4 to 5 days now. It's just constant, one thing after another. And I don't know that we can, in general versus just about building the relationship, we've got to figure out, because we need to cut our clock off at 5 o'clock. Department. We have got to figure out, and I've kind of been able to do that some, because at 4 or 5 o'clock, because we're 24/7, and this right here is just constantly moving. And we've got families, we've got lives, and when we put that 2-hour block of time, it's like, whew, now let me go back and catch up on all my emails. Let me go back, and it's a constant build. Now, throwing in the relationship building part is probably, as we go down, as we do these things, I think all of that comes together in that one time period. So not only could we probably do some of the relationship building, but we're getting our project team work done. We're getting our emails answered. We're getting our screenshots made and our work orders put in. We're getting this done and we're getting this done. And somehow, as people, and I talked with Gaynell, because the 3 people I'm on the PLC with, we talked about this, is that we've got to figure out how to take care of ourselves. And we can't and until you take care of yourself, you can't build a good relationship with somebody else. And right now, I don't want to say we're out of control, but right now we've got multiple things going on, and there'll be multiple things coming down the road. And I just want to be sure that our team as a whole is taking care of themselves. And understanding each other, which we all know what everybody's role is and how much all the project teams have going on, all of the you have going on with your schools and with the things coming down the road. So if we could, and we've been preaching this to the choir for the whole group, and it's still, like Janelle said, even 4 to 5 years into the job, and I've been in the job now 9 years, is still putting that 4 hours on Friday morning. No, don't call me. Don't do this. Don't do that. Enforcing myself with Ms. Brown. I've been trying for 3 years to implement this with our classroom. And can you do this on Friday morning? Well, sure. I just lost my 2 hours that I set aside. So
except this time you're going to say what?
This time I'm still going to say, yes, I can give you from 8 to 10, but from 10 to 12, because if I put her off, of course, she's going by curriculum. She's going by timelines and deadlines. And if I don't do it at that point, then I've lost her. And so we're back to, can I move that to the next week? And you do get all tangled up and all in the weeds, but you have to choose your battles, or choose not your battles. You got to choose your priorities. And sometimes that gets really difficult in our jobs.
Yeah, I don't want to minimize the difficulty at all, because I know you guys have an enormous amount on your plates, and I hear it from everyone. So I understand that it's a very, very real and very acute thing that everybody is feeling. I do think that there, just in terms of the synthesis of our conversation, that the concept of intentionality is something that came up today as being one thing that we could try. Just one, like, Whitney's comment about capturing moments that are even moments that are problem moments. How do you kind of suck the learning out of them, or kind of take advantage of those things as opportunities for maybe not what they were intended for, right? and then even just the calendar piece. But how do we just approach our time with as much intentionality as possible? And I think that's just a good kind of parting question to think about and sort of have marinating as we finish out the rest of the week. Sound like a plan? Okay. All right. Any final thoughts?
No, I did write down Whitney's quote of every opportunity is a chance to interact with someone else.
Love it.
I like that. Yep.
Love it. Quote of the day. All right. Well, thanks for carving out the time today, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys in December.
Thanks, Julie.
Have a wonderful
Thank
day.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
You too.